All right, I'm Mike Hartmann, the co-editor of the Giving Review, as is Dan Schmidt, along with Bill Shambra, but he's not with us today. And Fred Smith has been gracious enough to give us some time to talk. Fred Smith founded The Gathering in, I think, 1985. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. Started as a small group of people and has grown. Retired, I think, at the beginning of 2019. And there's a new president, Josh Kwan, but we'll ask Fred about the history of the gathering and what we could perhaps learn from it, as well as some other things he's written about recently for his blog. So why don't we get started right there, Fred? Why don't you tell us about the gathering for those of us who don't know, and when and where and why you founded it?
Sure, I'd love to. In 1985, I was teaching school at a boarding school, and a friend of mine, Bob Buford, said that he was thinking about starting a private foundation. Bob did very, very well in the cable business, and I always joke and say that when somebody in Texas gets rich, they either start a private foundation or buy an airplane or both. And so Bob thought he wanted to start a private foundation. I knew nothing about private foundations. So I called around and I found 3 other men who had been in this work for quite some time, and I coached me. And they said they would. And I said, well, the first step would be getting together. So we got together at a place called the Cedars in Arlington, Virginia, for a weekend and just talked. There weren't many staff of evangelical Christian foundations at that point. I mean, we had just basically gotten into the economic boom of the 80s. And so there were some older foundations, but there was a giving church. So we spent the weekend together. We liked it. We said that we'd like to do that next year. So basically, that group of 5 people getting together that weekend in 1985 grew on. And then by the time we'd reached about 100 people coming to those meetings, we decided we needed to incorporate. So in 1996, we did. We created a 501c3. One of us, Tom McCauley, called it The Gathering, came up with the logo, and that's how it happened. It was basically people who didn't have peers or felt they didn't have peers coming together to talk to each other.
So this was not modeled on anything else in particular, it does not seem.
No, it was very informal. Once we got into it, I mean, it became an annual conference, and so annual conferences, tend to have the same template. You have speakers, you have breakouts, you have all that sort of stuff. But the original group was just a very casual, informal, no agenda meeting of people who wanted to educate each other, what we called learning in the context of a relationship. And that's basically what it's remained over the years, in spite of the fact it's probably close to 1,200 people around the world who participated in one form or another in the gathering. It's still a place where people come to learn in the context of a relationship.
Nor does it seem as if you were heavily recruiting. Were people coming to you to be in on this, or was there recruiting? I mean, it didn't seem like membership would have been an important measure of your success in your own minds or anything like that. Yeah. Okay. They came to you.
Yeah, there were two things go on at the same time here. One, people were oftentimes reluctant to recruit because they saw this as their safe place, and they didn't small town, and same dynamic operates here. People resist, but we never did. We never actively recruited. People came to us, people recommended other people, or oftentimes, in my other work, I would meet people and talk to them. There some other places, but they were saying, I'd really like to find a place that I can just safe with my peers, no heavy program, actually no particular point of view. So that was the way it grew.
Talk more about the particular point of view. I mean, if one might have thought or thinks that the gathering is made up of mostly conservative, do I say members? Is it are most of the members conservative, the people who participate in the gathering?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't think, I've been friends with philanthropy around the time. And I think people tended to gravitate toward round because there was a point of view, and so they were attracted to that point of view. Whereas with the gathering, it was simply a safe place. While I would say the majority of the people are conservative, I don't think they came because they saw this as a conservative place to have particular topics. In fact, there were times when we would have speakers who were clearly not conservative, and that upset some people because they wanted, the voice to be consistent. But I think one of the roles that the gathering played was giving people a place to stretch. In fact, that was part of the mission statement, was to stretch people, not to harm them, not to frighten them, not to abuse them, but to say basically. And I'm an old school teacher, and so that's the kind of environment that I really wanted to create.
Fred, I was going to ask you, in terms of that, the gathering, as you put this together in your mind and then you executed it, and people responded, as you say, in various ways, as a safe place, though sort of primarily they were interested in that. Was there something you had in mind or you could model with respect to this gathering, other than sort of your own common sense and intuition and all? Or was it something that you thought, pulling pieces together in your mind, that the time sort of was either requiring it, this kind of gathering, this safe space, you say, or you just had a sense that things were moving in a direction with respect to sort of putting people together in this kind of format?
Yeah, a little bit of all of that, Dan. I've never been one to try to find trends or respond to trends. Basically, we got in the river and just started floating. And it turned out that it was the right time. It was the right time to have these conversations. There were a lot of things going on that people wanted to talk about, but it was also the right time when a significant number of family foundations were being formed. And a lot of people knew nothing about family philanthropy. They knew nothing about formal philanthropy. And so they wanted to get together and talk about those things. But I think we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I tell people this, I consider the gathering sort of my particular piece of art. And, I would see things and I would put them together into a program. And, if people liked it, they could come. If they didn't like it, they could go find another artist. But there was never, at least, and this frustrated the board a lot of times, there was never a plan. There was never a vision for the gathering in that sense. It was, let's just respond to what's going on. Let's hear from a variety of voices. Let's provide a place for trust and respect. and give people time to build those relationships over, frankly, over generations. So no, I'm not the one to say, you know, let's look into them and see what trends are. I've pretty much played it one moment at a time.
Well, the reason I ask is as trends, have sort of come and gone and so forth, or they're persisting in sometimes, unfortunately persisting. That's sort of, you can't say sort of instantaneous or sort of inspirational moment, which it was. Somehow it seems even more appropriate now, given some of the conversations in whatever post society we're in with respect to people. And I'm focusing here especially on your characterization of a safe place, and I guess their characterization as well, in terms of sort of just being relaxed and can participate, obviously with some eye to the future with respect to their own families and all. So I just wanted to make that comment, asking really sort of the inspiration of it and how it fits now perhaps more than ever in terms of people, not just for congeniality's sake, but for really sort of a reassuring moment in terms of sort of their own way of thinking. Hence my question.
No, and it's a good question. I always try to distinguish between safe and sterile.
Yes.
And we never described ourselves as neutral. That seemed to be almost a negative term. I never used the term balanced. I never used the term tolerant. It was always a place where people could come and they could learn, but they could know that they weren't going to be indoctrinated, but they also knew that they could bring their game with them. And if they felt strongly about something, they were free to talk about what they felt strongly about. But we tried to distinguish between who they were as a person and the causes that they felt strongly about. And so tell you the truth, I'm not sure how it worked, how we kept out of trouble or how we kept from having fights or splits or, all the rest of it. There were moments when some strong personalities said, how in the world can you not, form a coalition around this? And the places to form a coalition, but it never had an interest for me. But I didn't want, okay, come and, set all your feelings aside, all your beliefs aside, why can't we all just get along? I never wanted that kind of environment. And you're right. I think we will always need that kind of environment.
Well, great. Why don't we finish with part one there and pick up with part two on the other side?